Hello and welcome to another episode of CryptoTime. My name's James Coughlan and I'm joined with my usual co-host, Antonio Shillingford. How are you today, mate?
I'm doing rather fine. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. So as always, two subjects to kick into today. We have iFinex and we also have the Bank of America in relation to their patent applications. So without further ado, we will kick straight into this episode. One thing I must say first is please do your own due diligence before getting involved in any new investment, and also do not accept myself and Antonio's opinions as investment advice. So let's kick in, my friend. Bank of America and patents. So what are they looking to do and what are the headlines? Well, the headline was Bank of America seeks to patent a crypto wallet that works like a car valet key. The Bank of America is seeking to patent partition security system for digital currency wallets that will give different users different levels of access to stored funds. So in essence, what they're really looking to do here is offer a tiered system in which you can store different amounts of funds for different reasons. So you could, for example, have a password which is attached to one segregated part of that wallet, which is purely for day-to-day purchases such as jumping on the tube, grabbing a bottle of water, running off and doing what you need to do on a daily basis. Then you may have a second tier, which could be, for example, for small-term savings, like for a holiday or something like that. And then third tier could be, say, for example, purchasing a house. So I can in essence see where they're trying to go with this. They're trying to put a banking-esque kind of style on top of the whole kind of wallet system so that you can segregate your funds into different parts.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And this is something that we actually spoke about in a very early episode on the role that banks will have in this space moving forwards. And that role was custodians. Mm-hmm. Because if you now look at this in the perspective of an insurance company, yeah. So, of course, there have been insurance companies within this space in the past that said they're insuring this or that, and we just haven't actually seen any payouts off the back of it because they have 110 reasons on how they can actually get out of paying that insurance claim within this space right now. Just because the proper tools aren't built in, like true custodians. Yeah. So you look at this from the perspective of an insurance company. Right now, a lot of people have the narrative of be your own bank. So a lot of people securing their own cryptocurrency assets. Now, the issue with that is, let's say, for example, I log in on my home computer and someone's planted a little snooper, meaning that they'll be able to effectively view everything that I'm doing and expose my keys. Then they can, of course, log into that wallet and then do whatever transaction that they want. They'll just quite simply empty it. So if I was personally insured, 9 times out of 10, I'm not getting a payout because that insurance company, again, has 110 reasons on how to get out of it. Yep. Because, of course, securing my assets at that point is my sole responsibility. If you now have a company, being a bank, now being a custodian, you're a lot more likely to actually get that insurance payout because the bank is meant to be securing your assets. And if, of course, there was an exploit there and they lost the assets, you would more than likely get your money back.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see whether they do kind of add this with a layer of financial compensation in relation to it. Now, that's one way of looking at it. And there's another way of looking at it, that when you take a centralized entity, in essence, what you're doing is creating a honeypot in which everybody's want to fly to basically get to a large amount of funds. If, for example, we go back to a stupid analogy of, say, like 1950s or 60s, right? If, for example, somebody wanted to steal a large amount of money, they wouldn't bother walking down the street, putting a gun to you, saying, give me all your money, then coming to me, putting a gun to my face, give me all your money. What, in essence, they will do is they will go to a centralized place such as a bank, stand at the counter with the gun and say, give me all the money. The big difference there is that when they do make that robbery, and if it does actually work the way they wanted it to work, they're going to get a hell of a lot more funds when they do it. So in essence, what I'd like to see the Bank of America come out when they do launch this is some sort of financial compensation scheme in relation to it, because if they are hacked, I think it'd be great for individuals within the crypto sector to be able to have some sort of flight to safety in relation to this. So I see where you're coming from. I think there's a good point to the other side as well, and that's why there has to be a hybrid between the two to make sure that this really works properly. I can see what they're aiming at. I don't by any means think that what they're trying to do is anything new by any stretch stretch to imagine a nation, really, because of the fact that we have seen this previously before. So I think really what we should look at now is how this all works. So users would be prompted to enter one password out of several, and one password would open one tier of the wallet, while another password would open a different tier. Think of a valet key that can open a car door, but not the boot. So that's something that's quite interesting to see, and how, for example, they will operate to that. So I think that covers nicely what Bank of America are obviously trying to do at the moment. One thing I would like to say before we do move on is obviously this is in conjunction with the kind of patent race which is happening at this moment in time. I think that we're seeing technology companies, banking institutions, everybody just rush to try and get a piece of this pie in relation to how it's going to work going forward. N-Chain for us really are the forefront of this. They've got huge amount of patents which have already been approved for this sector, which are working very, very well for that team. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do go about doing it. We have seen the Bank of America actually apply for 36 patents so far that have been actually approved. And there's a further 31 patents which are currently pending. So
so they're really pushing forward now. And that's a very important point. End of the day, patents is not a dirty word. Protect your intellectual property.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So good statement to leave that on. Let's move on to iFinex. So what's been happening?
Yeah, so this is more of a bit of an update because, of course, we saw in the very early days everything start breaking out about Tether. People questioning its integrity, whether they were running a fractional reserve system. And then, of course, it broke out that they moved $850 million from Tether, and that money was meant to be there in the reserves to actually back up the Tether token itself and give it a actual stable $1 value. And they moved $850 million worth of those funds over into Bitfinex to basically plug a hole. What iFinex have really pushed for is for the New York Attorney General to dismiss the case. And they're the people that are handling the case. And they've pushed to get the whole case pretty much dismissed. Now, the New York State District Court has denied iFinex's motion to dismiss the New York Attorney General's lawsuit against the company. Now, iFinex needs to produce documents at the request of the New York Attorney General, and the New York Attorney General can continue its investigation. So we can now really start getting the answers off the back of it. And it is starting to look like the defense that iFinex have put up is literally completely gone. And they're now having to actually produce documentation on what really happened. So just because you are operating in the cryptocurrency space doesn't mean that you don't have to answer to laws and regulations. End of the day, you're moving value from point A to point B. Doesn't matter whether you're a stablecoin or a cryptocurrency. You're moving value from point A to point B.
I think it's a typical kind of shoot from the hip type mentality that we've seen a lot of the time from the crypto sector. And I think it's great to see that people are being made accountable for wrongdoings within this space. Mm-hmm. Now, at the end of the day, there's certain things that can go on which are mistakes, and people are entitled to make mistakes. But one thing you're not entitled to do is start moving other people's funds around without the permission or without the actual correct information being passed out to the users of that product. The one thing I found so scary about all of this was the fact that there was all this information about USDT out there about how potentially there could be a huge problem, there could be a huge hole in the funds, they might not be backed up one for one like they were saying. In fact, it could be a huge fractional reserve system in comparison to what we think. And then what we see is people using it on a daily basis, huge volumes going through USDT. And for me, I found that very, very interesting to see.
Yeah, that's mainly because the people within this space currently don't really have the option. So it's very hard to get onto traditional fiat payment rails. So if you're within the cryptocurrency space, there's not that many places where you can basically transact and go straight into pounds or straight into dollars. That's why these stablecoin bridges were effectively built to basically supplement something that this cryptocurrency space didn't really have at that particular time. So they did have their role, and that's why people are still utilizing them to this day. But within the future, once banks really start opening up and allowing people to really use the payment rails and just open up the flow of capital to and from cryptocurrencies, stablecoins won't have a role anymore.
Yeah. I think just before you do move on from that, I think I completely hear your point and where you're coming from in relation to it. But I think the real problem is here is that if, for example, that situation was to happen where everybody was to rock up to USDT's front door, hello, USDT, we want our US dollars back. If the case was that they couldn't pay that money out, as much as people see the convenience of that flight to safety when they need to, if it's convenient, for example, for waiting for a drop off in the market while flooding to that, I understand it, but I just don't think that companies can operate in this capacity going forward because it's just totally unethical. And the whole point behind cryptocurrency, and I know that USDT in essence isn't a cryptocurrency, it's a stable coin, it's a digital asset is the way that I'd prefer to actually refer to this asset, is that it's not safe. And I don't like the fact that there's no transparency there. There should be ultimate transparency. Blockchain technology creates you and affords you the opportunity to be able to look at everything that's happening. For them to sneak around in the background, for me, was just unacceptable. Yeah. And I know that that's something that we can both agree on this. It's not right.
No. And just to end this off, the company has until October the 14th to turn over the documents that the New York Attorney General requires. So we're now really and truly going to start getting answers off the back of it. And whether it's fines or whether it's time, again, like things will get applied and people are going to have to start answering to the stuff that they were doing prior to this space before it was really under the eye of regulators and under the eye of law officials.
Cool. So I think this is a really good little spot to wrap up. I think really on this case, we're going to be watching this space for a while now to ensure that actually we stay on top of what's happening with iFinex and how this is all going to get played out, as I think this is going to be very relevant to the future of crypto and how it's all going to operate. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please hit up that like and subscribe button if you are enjoying our content. You can always listen to us also through Spotify and iTunes. And we've also got a blog section through our website at www.bitstocks.com. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Peace and love.